So now we're going to look at more functions. So let's start with if. If function is just used to check whether a condition is true or not, and it returns the value that we want it to return. So basically, if I want to find out if this row, like the price column here, has value greater than 400, I want to write yes here, and if it's not, then I want to write no. So I can do that with an if condition. I can write equal if, and so first I need to write the logical expression. The logical expression is just that this cell should have value greater than 400, then comma. Now I can write basically any value. So I want to return yes when the statement is true, so I can write yes. And I want it to return no when this statement is false, so I write no. So first the condition that we want to check, and if it's true, then we return yes, and if it's false, we return no. So here, and then we can just like autofill this formula by double clicking here, and it just fills it up. So this is how we use if. So now let's say like we don't have just one condition to check, we want to check multiple conditions. We can use nested if to do that. Basically what it means that we can have like more than one condition in the if statement. So how can we do that? Let's say we want to find a clothing item with price greater than 50. So basically we want it to say yes here in the cell when, the category here is clothing and the price here is greater than 50. So how would I do that? I can write an if condition. So first I want to check that this value, this cell has the value equal to not electronics, but clothing. And because this is a string, so we wrote it under these quotation marks. If you're writing a string, you need to put it in these quotation marks. And then now I don't want it to return yes and no. I don't want just one condition. I want another condition. So what I'm going to do is basically write the second expression right here. So I can just do that. So I can write another if condition and write that this cell should have value greater than 50. And if this is greater than 50, then return yes. Otherwise, return no. And then I will close it. Okay, and I'm just going to close this and I'm going to write no. So this seems like a really complicated expression. But basically what it's going to do is first it's going to check whether this condition is true or not. If it's true, then it's going to go and evaluate this statement. But if it's not true, then it's going to evaluate this statement. Basically, it's just going to print out no. Okay, so it's still doing the same thing. Here we have an expression, and if it was true, then it would print out something. And if it's not true, then it would print out some other thing. But now, when it's true, we're just like checking another condition, basically. So when it's true, it's just going to evaluate this expression. And if this expression is true, it's going to return yes. If this expression is not true, then it's going to return no. So let me just like autofill all of these. So we can see like the only time it says yes is when, there is clothing written and the price is greater than 50. That's when it says yes. Here there is clothing, but because the price is 50, it's not greater than 50, so we got no. Okay, so maybe let's practice with another example. So let's say I want to find, okay, it doesn't have multiple values, so we're just gonna, instead of clothing item, let's just write furniture. So here, we're just gonna write if condition, and we want the category to be, we want it to be furniture, and then like normally we would just like return, what value. Basically, we're just going to write what value to return when this is true. But instead, what we're going to do, if this category turns out to be like furniture, then we're going to evaluate this other if statement, which would check that the price here is greater than, let's say, 50. And if it's true, the price is greater than 50, then it's going to return yes. Otherwise, it's going to return no. Okay. And basically, if this condition was not true, then it would just go straight to the no part. Okay, so what is happening? It's just checking this condition. And if this condition is not true, it's just going to print out no. But if this condition is true, it's going to check another thing, okay? It's going to evaluate another if statement. So if it turns out to be furniture, then it's going to also check whether price is greater than 50. If the price is greater than 50, so basically if both of these conditions are true, it's going to print out yes. But if none of these conditions are true, then it's going to print out no. So here, basically this is what it's doing. So when we enter, it gives us a no. Then we can autofill all of these other rows too. And you can look at a furniture, and this value is greater than 50, so it's giving us yes. Here too, it's giving us yes. And then here it's giving us yes. Anyway, so this is how we use like multiple conditions in if statement. We can also add like another condition. So maybe like I can just replace any of this with any condition I want. Yeah, so now the next function is COUNTIF. So basically COUNTIF just counts. It's doing the same thing as count A basically, but it's gonna only count the items that meet the condition. Okay, so we're gonna write COUNTIFs, and then we have to select the range. So the range is, I can select this whole thing, or I can just select this because it doesn't matter. So we're just going to select this and then comma, and we write the criteria. So the criteria is that this cell should have furniture written in it. So now I got the count as 3. Okay, so let's do another COUNTIF. So what if I want to count basically the number of furniture items with price greater than 50, then I can just select this range first, and then I can write like this column should have value of yes. So it's basically counting like how many cells in this range have value yes in it. Okay. The thing to remember is we are writing yes in quotation mark, but if it was a number, let's say maybe we were counting these numbers. So let's say we have this price range selected, and we wanted to count the number of cells in this range that have value greater than, let's say, 150. We're just going to write like greater than 150. Okay, so it's giving us an error. I think I have to write it in like this. So yeah, we're gonna have to write the expression. If it's like greater than something, then we need to write it with this quotation mark. But the thing is, like, if you just comparing numbers, so you can just write like 50. So if I just write 50 here, it's gonna check like how many cells here have the value 50 in them. Okay, so yeah, so if you're comparing with a string, you want to count the number of cells that have some string in it, then you have to put the string in quotation mark, but numbers can stay like these. You don't have to write the quotation marks for numbers. And if you're writing a condition, like if you want it to be greater than 50, then you have to put the condition thing of holding in quotation marks. Okay, so this is how it works. So now look at SUMIF. SUMIF is I want to sum the price of all the electronics items. Okay, so how would I do that? So I can just write SUMIF, and now I need to select the range. So in that selection range, I should have both the category and the price columns. Okay, so I need to select the whole range because I want to compare with this category and then I want to add up this price. So both of these should be in this range. So I'm just going to select that. And then I need to write the criteria. So the criteria is that basically furniture should be written. So let's say furniture. And then it wants me to select the sum range. So I want to sum up the price. So I'm going to select it. So here we have SUMIF, and this is SUMIF. AVERAGEIF is similar to this. So let's look at that. What if I wanted to find the average price of items in this electronics category? So I can use the AVERAGEIF. So the criteria is gonna be this. I can even select like the whole thing, but I don't need to. I just want these two columns to be in the range. That's it. The criteria is that the item should be electronics. So it's gonna look at the rows that have electronics written. And then I need to write the average range. So I want to find the average of prices. So I'm going to select this and then close brackets in here. So it's giving me the average of all the like electronic items. We can also just check it. So I can just select multiple cells by pressing Control and clicking. So, this one has electronics, this one, and this one. And we know that the sum is 2400 and average is 800. Okay. Yeah. So basically, don't make the mistake that I made. So we want the range to be same. Okay. So it should be like this. It should have had the whole thing. Basically, we shouldn't have A1 selected here. We should have A2 selected here. Yeah. Don't include this category, like this header. It's gonna mess up with the calculation. And COUNTIF, like even in COUNTIF, I started the range with A1. I should have selected like A2. Okay, so yeah, let's select the range this way. So let's say I want to find the average. So I'm just gonna not include the header. And then I'm gonna write the criteria, and the criteria is, let's say, it's clothing. And then we're gonna have, I want the average of price. So I'm gonna select price. And then we got the average price for clothing items. So here we can check it. So that is 70. It's correct. The problem that was, why writing it as like A1 wasn't working, because if I select this whole range here, so basically, let me just calculate it right here. So if I write AVERAGEIF, and if I selected this range, like also included the header here, and then I wrote the criteria, like I have to, so like furniture, then I am selecting only range. For the price, I'm only selecting like this much. I am not selecting the header, and that's why it was giving me the wrong answer. I didn't select the header, so let's see what value it gives us. So it's giving us 156.66 for furniture. But when I enter the correct range, then what happens? So I'm going to also select the header now, and here it is. So it's giving me 383.66. So it's a different answer. Okay, so let's check if it's giving us the correct answer. So I'm just going to select all the furniture price. So here, so it's giving me 383.33 here. So like when we're selecting the right range, like if you're selecting it from, you're also selecting the header, then in this one, you should also select the header. Like you can't have different ranges, okay? So this was the problem. Anyway, so we have covered if and nested if, COUNTIF, SUMIF, and AVERAGEIF. Now let's also look at OR and AND function. So what OR and AND do, they basically return true or false as the answer. So you can have, like instead of writing this if statement, I could have used the AND statement. I want it to be true when basically this category has furniture value and price has greater than 50 value. So let's write it in AND statement. I'm just going to do equal N, and then I'm going to write the logical expression, which is I want this cell to have the value equal, sorry, not electronics. Was it electronics? It was furniture. So furniture, and then I want this to be greater than 50. Okay, so here it's giving me false. Okay, because this is not furniture. Both of these conditions should be true for this to be true, because this is an AND statement. Okay, so I'm just going to autofill all of these. So here we have true because it's a furniture and it has the price greater than 50. Okay, so this is AND condition. If we put OR equal OR, and then we write the same thing that, this cell is equal to furniture and this cell is greater than 50, then return true. Okay, so it's giving me true even though this is not furniture, but because the price is greater than 50, that's why it's giving me true. For an OR condition, we only need like one of the conditions to be true. So yeah, this would evaluate to true if one of the conditions are true. Okay, so the only time like this is false is when this is not furniture and this is also not greater than 50. Okay, so both conditions have to be wrong to give a false. Okay, so this was OR. So we covered OR and AND. Now we need to look at the COUNTIFs, SUMIFs, AVERAGEIFs, basically. So let's go to the next slide. Here I have the same data, but I also have this region and salesperson column. So let's say I want to have more conditions in my basically COUNTIF function. Okay, so I need to use COUNTIFs. So it's really easy to remember. If you have multiple conditions, then COUNTIFs. If single condition, then COUNTIF. So let's say I want to find out basically how many electronics items Alice sold, I think. Yeah, so COUNTIFs, we have, so, we need to write the range for the first criteria. So here I'm going to select category, Control Shift down arrow, and it would select the whole column, then comma, and I want electronics here. So electronics, And then the second condition is I want the salesperson to be Alice. So I'm just gonna select salesperson and sorry, this is not selecting the whole thing. So yeah, I want to write the range. So here, it's not doing it. So I can just like type in manually. So from F1 to F18. So F1 to F18. I want it to be Alice. Okay. So here we have it. Okay. So wherever it is electronics and Alice, it's gonna count it. Okay. So we have only 2 rows that have both of these together. So that's why it gives us 2 as the answer. And now averages. Here, first I have to select the range from where I want the average to be calculated. So I want the average of price. So I'm going to select the price column. And then I'm going to select the range for the first criteria. So I want the first criteria to be, this category should be electronics. Okay, so I'm going to select this column. And then I'm going to write the condition, which is that it should be equal to electronics. And then I want to select the range for my second criteria, which is salesperson. And I want the salesperson to be equal to Alice. Okay. So this is from where I want to calculate the average. This is the range for the first criteria. This is the range for the second criteria. And so basically, it's just summing up. Sorry, it's just calculating the average price for all the items, all the electronics items Alice sold. So yeah, this is what it's doing. And now let's do SUMIFS. So SUMIFS is the same as AVERAGEIFS. First, we need to write the range from where we want to find the sum. So we want to find the sum of prices. We're going to select the price column. And then we want to select the range for the first criteria. So I want this column to be equal to electronics. And then the range for the second criteria. So I want the salesperson to be Alice. So I'm just going to select it and write Alice. So yeah. So it's just summing up prices where from the rows, you have both like electronics and Alice written. Okay.